I start the recording. This is going, and now I'm navigating this. Can you see the slides? Great. So I was thinking with Monrea, who invited me, thank you by the way, or who suggested this Skillshare, to talk about something I'm doing in the last 10 years. So, collective, network, non hierarchical, political listening and sound practice, organizing from a, and I call from a fluid Luxembourgist, which is top of Marxist position, ecofeminist sonic perspective. So, I say these words because I really think that these words are constantly changing and being co-opted and being like hijacked, but because we're on the internet, that's the only way we can actually communicate through language. I mean, also images, but I do think that language as an extension maybe of our consciousness or our possibility, sound also plays a huge role in how we can organize and maybe also circumvent or go around, you know, different strategies how people co-opt our minds or thoughts or actions and so on and so on. So this is a little bit going hardcore into it, but I want to talk about something I've called sonic wilderness together with others. So it's a collective practice, it's not my work, it's a collective thing I and others have been doing over the years. This, for example, is a group in Indonesia. It was a feminist sound camp we did in 2018. I talk about this a little bit later. I come from an electronic music, let's say, performing and producing, record making, traveling kind of position. So I've released 30 records, more than 30 records, with lots of people and alone. I have like 10 solo records, and I'm doing this for like 30 years now. So over the time, many things have changed, and my position has been, thrown around, and I have been thrown around, and I have been collecting myself back and basically living as an artist now for 20 years, a sound and music artist, and making pieces for dance or records or performances, either in some sort of experimental club context or listening context. And just to a little bit position my where I come from. So I was born in East Germany, the Soviet occupied part of Germany, and I lived there 20 years behind the wall. And in 89, famously, the Berlin Wall came down, and this is when I got out out of the limited, you know, focus of the East Bloc and started to. It was just when I was 20, so it was a really strange moment for me to position myself and know where to go. And this is also, I think, the reason why I became an artist or musician, because everything collapsed and like a normal, path was basically taken from me for a moment. So I have been writing about this and making music about this a lot, more or less on one record which got some attention internationally, which was called Westernization Completed. It came out in 2004. It was released by an American small indie label. And there I'm speaking about my experience as being brought up under realist socialism or communism or wannabe communism under a Marxist-Leninist perspective. So I'm a little bit talking there about it, and basically almost kind of like being taking the hip hop, the rap concept of telling where I'm from and, claiming my space. But it was an electronic record, so it was kind of a hybrid, experimental poetry kind of thing. So this is how I was basically becoming this artist called AGF, who I'm now releasing music under. But over the years, traveling, I moved actually from Berlin after living almost 20 years in Berlin and in, out, London, some other things. I decided with my partner, who's also an electronic musician, Vladislav Delay is his name. We also had a child together, so we decided to move out of the, so to speak, post-techno context, and we moved to an island in the north in Scandinavia. This is a very old, fun map, and I'm just telling this because it has really informed my practice a lot. So this is on the larger map, geographically, where I am on the planet. So pretty much north. We are 200 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle. This has literally kicked in a complete different context for electronic music in some ways, because of course electronic music can be made anywhere, and I think this also has a huge potential. So when we moved here, I was drawn to do also some like local practice, and it started off with a conference about wind. And for example, out of this long investigation with many, many others, I just want to mention the Manifesto of Rural Futurism, something we've been thinking about a lot, the potential of not living in a metropolis or big city, but living remote and still living a very, living a certain life that has a disconnection in one hand, but also on the other hand is very, very basic. So it's quite interesting. I wanted to mention it. So out of this electronic musician festival circle, traveling, touring, kind of record releasing cycle, around 2010, I did a residency in Grisdale Arts in the UK for the Phone Festival, and that was the first time I had this idea of going outside with my instruments and perform within a different kind of context than a club or music stage, blah 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 context. So I was very interested in being outside, of being not anymore in, frankly speaking, stinky alcohol-soaked clubs. So I was looking for a healthier way out for myself, but also thinking about the music. And I was always working with field recordings, and so this started to be a little bit interesting. And over the time, I and many others have started to think about the sonic perspective and the culture of listening. And so within this island where I'm living now and in the north, I've been able to apply for a grant for a project called High Art, or an organization, and we have done artist in residences on the island. For example, here with Ryoko Akama in 2013, we went with a local fisherman to make a sound piece off the shore of a site where they are planning a new nuclear power plant nearby where I'm living, like 100 kilometers away from where I'm living. So we started to really push for something which I say simply a position, a political position, but also a material position within composition and sound. So, for example, Ryoko here works with stones from Fukushima. She's from Japan originally, lives now in Huddersfield, and has an amazing sound space herself called Ame. And she was actually a refugee, or she left Japan because she was directly affected by the nuclear disaster there, Fukushima 2011. So we built this Geiger counter, which is a electrical measurement for radioactivity, and we used the radioactive data to make the piece together. And yeah, that was a powerful project. For example, I'm mentioning now a few of these projects around the island, but also around sonic wilderness, which is an outdoor music practice. So we also did a sound map in Hailoto with the artist Juan Duarte Regino, a Mexican data sound artist, I would say. Data artist, yes. So with this organization we founded here in Hailoto, the island, we also opened a little media lab for the kids here because it's a very remote place. So kids had very little access to, certain spaces or technologies, and there was a whole different story. I spent literally 4 or 5 years working with kids and apps and making music. We had an iPad orchestra. We basically used technology to make sound and music, and it was really an incredible project. But also, we made this app where we used the field recordings we've recorded with the kids and placed them on the island, and you can stroke the island and you can hear the sound of it. Yeah, so sonic wilderness. Since then, I sometimes also been asked to write about it and basically collect language around it, because in the beginning it was really just a practice and just something to do, and we didn't think about it so much. We just did it, and over the time, just recently, I finished a draft for a book. So I'm developing slowly a language around this practice, which is more or less not a language-based practice, but so it has to do with collective instrumentality, political sound, embodied political sound, and also critical listening. So, for example, in 2015, with an organization or association called BioArt Society, we went to Kilpisjärvi, it's in northern Finland, and I was curating and basically facilitating a camp. I call them camp. It's a little bit difficult word, maybe camp, because concentration camps, I don't know, I can't forget about it, but I don't know else what to say. Like, it's kind of like a camp. So we're going outside, people with different skills and things, and we are doing sound and music outside, and we are working in the field. We're looking for a site we want to play. For example, here, this is a project in 2018 I mentioned in the beginning. It was a feminist, I don't know if you can hear the sound, I'm gonna try. So it was a feminist sound camp in Yogyakarta for the Nusa Sonic Festival, and we were here going into a rice field and playing this piece together, basically improvised this piece, which became later a composition which we also performed on stage for audience. But that was the first and only time. No, actually, this is the second time we're doing this. We went back to record it. It was so wonderful when it happened. And the artists there, you can find all these amazing artists on my documentation of these works. So I have a Vimeo channel and also websites, obviously, and everything is documented. There's also a documentation about this if you're interested into looking into it deeper. So these are all women from Indonesia, Southeast Asia, Philippines, and Singapore, maybe. Yeah. We also did this incredible piece. I don't want to go too deep into it. You can also find it on Vimeo, and you can find the explanation where we've been meditating. I cannot call it treeing. It's derived from this amazing sci-fi series Binti by the writer Nadi. And she has this character Binti who is doing math as a form of meditation and also harmonizing and also fixing things. So I was taking this idea and also other artists' idea of tree meditation. For example, Mari Keskus Korsu, who does this kind of embodied practice of breathing with trees. So we were kind of thinking about trees as a connection of earth and sky, and we were imagining a frequency along that line. and I suggested to meditate on the frequency of this line, and the sound was really amazing there. The trees were really loud, banging to each other. It's also in Indonesia, so this piece is also on my Vimeo if you want to check. This was a workshop I did in Vietnam, in Hanoi. This is actually in the middle of the city. I hope you can hear the sound of the videos at playing, but if not, I'm going to keep talking. This is also archived on my Vimeo. So this project was just a one-day workshop where we went to the nearest park, and because there was this story we came out of that they just had cut a lot of trees in Hanoi, which is already a very polluted city. And also in Vietnam, there's a high form of surveillance and basically no free speech. It's very dangerous to do political work there. So we were doing this silent meditation around this tree in appreciation of the people who had been arrested, many young people been arrested and actually imprisoned. Vietnam has one of the highest imprisoned population after the US and I don't know, another country, I don't remember now. Anyway, just really just scratching the surface on all these projects to give you a larger idea of these collective sound interventions. This, for example, it was an amazing camp we did 2016 in Hailuoto, the island where I'm based. And this was a specific camp where I invited instrument builders, so people who already build their own electronic or electroacoustic instruments. And so these people, we are here, I'm calling this blueberry techno scenario. We are basically sitting in the blueberries and we're playing music together. And we had one person walking around with a field recorder recording the piece. So basically performative field recordings, running around and making her decisions what of the soundscape is going to be included in the piece. We did several like these in this camp. It was absolutely stunning. This is another one. I'm actually for a moment worried because I don't see you if anybody is still here. I'm going to have a quick look. Yeah, it looks okay. Ah, cool. Can you hear me? Everything's cool. Good, because I was just thinking, oh, I'm talking and there's no way of knowing if this is still recording and stuff. Okay, cool. So I continue. Yeah, so I've also made a piece about, I'm really obsessed with mushrooms and mycology, actually. Mycology in a way of like philosophical, evolutionary kind of influence on my practice and thinking. So here I'm using a tool which is a system made by Interspecific. It's a Mexican also data collective. Like two women artists made this kind of energy bending system and they helped me use it. And so I was able to communicate somehow with the matter of the mushroom, the fruit body, and also I tried other things and I was recording these things. It was a very fun project. This was also in the instrument building camp. We built this mushroom sequencer, which actually really worked well. Arduino based, made a beat. There's also documentations about this. And I wanted to just recommend everybody to think about radical mycology. This is a grassroots, kind of underground, non-commercial, worldwide kind of movement where maybe the most famous person around it is Peter McCoy. He also started a school now. He kind of initiated this movement or kind of is collecting it and has really some amazing webinars and tutorials thinking about fungi or fungi. No, depends where you live, how you call this. As as a way of thinking about life, and also and I took it to sound, and was thinking about composition as well, you know, composing like mushroom mycelium or something. I can talk about this more if you're interested. So here's one urban situation again, where we are in Berlin. That was for the CTM festival, I think also 2018 maybe, or 19. Sonic wilderness intervention in front of the Reichstag, the government building. In the background you see the Kanzleramt, where Angela Merkel is still governing with her teams. So we were doing an intervention there. And just recently I was doing something online due to COVID. It was meant to be that we are together, but this is also why I'm here, because this is how I got to know Monrea, who facilitated or invited me to do this skillshare. And we did this incredible 10-day intensive intercontinental collaboration pieces. So we got to know each other, we got to skillshare, or like make audio portraits, we got to send sounds to each other, we composed pieces. It's also very well documented under this hashtag sonic writing soundings, sounding, I think. I hope. Soundings or sounding? I think sounding. So yeah. Oh. Do you see now a colorful picture with the butterfly? So it stopped going. Okay. Let me see. Now? Changing? No? Oh. I went out of the slides. Maybe I stay like this then. Do you see now sonic writing? A group of people in a call. So yeah, this is the sonic writing group. They're also amazing artists from Palestine, Indonesia, Zambezi Valley in Zimbabwe. Monrea is there from Nairobi, and Farzaneh from Tehran. This is quite fresh. It just happened a month ago, and we have a beautiful website where we archived all the materials and also some other of our works. And I think we are still kind of collaborating in some ways. So these are just some. This is another project, a little bit off Sonic Wilderness, because that was a dance piece where I made sound for Sergio Mattis, like a choreographer, and his dancers. But later on, we took the sound of the piece and we made the extinction stories, because the piece was around extinction, and they had written these incredible, amazing stories about 45 different species, and their stories, how they got extinct, or how they are fighting to be saved, and so on and so on. So if you follow this hashtag extinction stories, you can also listen to these pieces, which I asked many friends all over the world for a small fee to record for this piece, and all the money that's been raised through this project is going to extinction activism, so directly to small extinction groups who fight for these specific species. So, okay, wait. So, yeah, sound is growing. So this is what I've mentioned, that I've been inspired by mycelium in terms of composition also, and thinking of improvisation or playing together. So I started using these scores where we design like voice or bodies or instruments or anything, and we are thinking about sound as something that is growing and not something that is determined by either a notation, classic notation, or a grid in a software, or a keyboard that has a specific tuning or something. So it is really a different kind of attempt at making music together, more like growing together, just conceptually. Yeah. So all these things have led me to think about political sound more, and also kind of has changed in the last 5 years. But since I've been working on this, I felt always that I felt sad that people who were doing really incredible, brave, investigative sound work or pieces didn't get the attention I was thinking they should be getting, instead of compared to some other things that have, you know, different meanings. But I was also really interested in some form, explicit form of expressing positions, and the good thing about sound is that there is a lot of space. You know, we can listen together to music, and we have the freedom to be with this music no matter our political position or our position. We can be a billionaire is listening to the same music like a poor person, I don't know, in wherever, you know, just like class or gender or sexuality or, you know, urban, rural, inside, outside, all these identification figures, what we are thinking about a lot in nowadays, and I think this is a good thing. They can be, they are raised when we listen to a piece of music, and of course that can, that in itself has a function. But I was really interested thinking about, or I was looking for people putting a position in their music really clearly that cannot be interpreted differently. So let's say you listen to a techno piece, and there is literally no way a Nazi can listen to this piece the same way as a, let's say, guerrilla freedom fighter in some indigenous, you know, defense. Like basically, this is a very interesting thing, I think, and it's very interesting to think about that. So this is what the project I started building with others lately, called Recon, is about. So I made this, maybe I tell about this a little bit later. So it is came out of also, of course, what's going on in the world, the police violence, the how also fascists, the alt-right, or even the right are using, you know, sound for their own purposes, and then also being inspired by collectives like Las Tesis. I don't know if you have heard of them. Incredible, powerful sound project from Chile. If you don't know, please capture this hashtag and check it out. Yeah, so going through all these kind of angles of sound in politics or political protests, also being inspired by some books and readings, which I was actually trying to show you, but I don't know, maybe later. So very inspired also by some reading. I've been thinking about organizing. I've been thinking about how to move from here, really having the urge, I mean, out of the West, you know, being situated in the West, being in a very privileged position as an artist, often scared to have enough income and pay my bills, but still making it kind of. And so I felt more and more I need to do something. And so this is how I also organized with the collective called Female Pressure. And I want to invite especially women, non-binary, and also trans artists to join us, even just to organize, to come into our database and be part of the project, no matter how you want to contribute to. It's a very powerful international network, which is now more than 3,000 people, at least 80 countries, and we are doing different things together. I can talk about this also a little bit later if you want. This is a very interesting project, and actually this project has is the foundation for me going for this, for my latest endeavor, Reckon More, because in 2016, 15 and 16, we did this Rojava project for the northern Syrian freedom fighters, mostly Kurdish, but not only. And we did this project together. Many, almost 100 women of our collective made audio works to raise awareness and understanding about their position of these women in these absolute violent war situations, surrounded by ISIS, often confronted, defending themselves, having their own armies, and so on. So we made this really beautiful project, which got a lot of attention finally, and also really beautiful music. So there is a Bandcamp record out on this, which I just checked yesterday again, and it's listened yesterday again because it's so long time ago now. I wanted to quickly check. And so we made maybe 50 sound pieces, and they're on SoundCloud. You can listen there. And just by seeing how many people we reached with this project, it was really encouraging for me to see, oh, actually, maybe sound can do something. Besides, of course, we are dancing together and we are listening to things together and we're negotiating space and we're coming together and we're making borders obsolete, these kind of sound things, but also organizing around sound, something that is maybe closer to real activism or actually also real crisis situations. So I was really seeking out these kind of works and projects from other peoples as well. There's two other organizations I'm organizing with. One is BioArt Society. It's a Finnish-based association, also international. You can also join if you're a bioartist. It's a very interesting association. And I'm also part of AVID, which is an international global feminist network, absolutely mixed, nothing to do with sound. Yeah, so these things I wanted to tell you about. And the platform I also got a grant from a Finnish private company who gives grants to artists. They gave me a chance to build this last year, and I started, and it's in the process, I'm in the middle of it, and I started with a project called Audio Collectiveness, where I'm featuring artists who really deliberately do very political activist work. For example, Sukitoa Onomau, who is working for animal rights, the animal rights movement, or Meira Asher, who has been for 20, 30 years working on the Palestinian-Israeli conflict military situation. Her work is astonishing and really inspiring, so I've put an interview with her there, and her music as well, and her sound work. And we were discussing, how to use sound to empower change, improve life, or how to use sound in solidarity, or how sound can be explored, in recognizing issues that are maybe hidden or hidden to many of us, or hard to put into words or something like this. And also thinking about sound as a physical thing, like how access to airwaves, scale, time, space. Yeah, and also using sound to interpret data, compress data, make storytelling available for certain things. So I've been working on this project in several levels. One section is called Recon. In there, I'm inviting people to submit a 1-minute composition on a piece, on something that is very specific, like almost like an app. Like it's a very small thing, but it's a very specific thing. So for example, I made one on femicide or on direct democracy. There's people who made on migration or many others. We are now up to 10 episodes already. This one is on oppression, on femicide, And always these episodes include a reader with a lot of material collected to lead the interested deeper if they want, how to read up on stuff, how to find good information. And then also a collection of organizations that already work in the space of to, for example, organize against femicide or, you know, help migrants or stuff like that. So this is an experiment of connecting our sound world with activism and also with maybe academia in some way, but like not to thin down academia or books or complex writing into, but we all know that. You all know TikTok. I mean, this is a similar thing, it's just a different thing. Like condensing information that is hyper complex to a small tweet or TikTok or Recon format. So this is what we are trying there, experimenting with the format of sound in this, while, for example, TikTok is more visual or stuff like that. Yeah, so I have done also one on Frontex, for example, very important. That was a really good episode because Frontex is the military, the European military extra jurisdictional entity who defends Europe against, the global south or whoever. But people who want to come to Europe, they are largely responsible for a lot of migrants dying as well, or helping or not helping. So it's a very complex situation. Yeah, so also, I just recently did a manual about listening and political listening, and also position your body into the political listening. So if you're interested, you can go to this URL and see that manual. I did it for a Czech website or project. It's very beautifully facilitated. Yeah, and that's maybe mainly what I was thinking to wrap up today. Hey, and I'm 42 minutes in, so I have been quite fast. Maybe I go quickly once more into maybe I just take a question if you have one. Very cool. So yeah, female pressure is a network and a database. So you can go to the website femalepressure.net. I think it's here. Yes, femalepressure.net. And you can just click on about and you can become a member. You just write an email to the email address there. I think it's info@femalepressure.net, and you say you want to be a member. Then our team, someone in the team sends you a form, because we are making sure that we are not too much infiltrated by assholes. So we are sending the form, and then you put everything in you want to share through Female Pressure, and then you go to the database, and there you can also join several things you want to join. For example, the most extra internet is our mailing list. So it's an email list. So if you don't like emails, it's not recommended, but I think it's actually a very powerful tool because it's off social media. So it's how we connect, aside from, Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, all that stuff. And for example, I do the Female Pressure Twitter, and within the network, you can do what you want. You don't have to do nothing. You can be just lurking or, just listening, or you can also be part of the teams we have. We have several different teams. For example, one team is a fact team. We're collecting data on how women, non-binary, trans, and in general queer, LGBTQ is represented in the field. This is our main, or this has been our main agenda, to make, to get the white man of the playing lists, basically, because it was just in 2013 we had this moment where we were really all fed up with this. We started to count and put the facts out, and it got a quite media attention, and since then a lot has happened, and I think it has been actually kind of resolved now in a way. I think the gender question is better, it's much worse in questions of race, for example. So we are constantly also changing our priorities and what we are fighting for, but also we're just sending each other music, we're helping each other, we are a huge resource to each other. So for example, if you need anything anywhere in the world, you can just write to the email list, and mostly people respond. Of course, it depends, but whenever there is anything, you can also post your music, which comes to people listening to your music, many women listening your music. I think this is also something that shouldn't be underrated, because we are listening to each other, and helping each other, and some we're finding fans or friends or colleagues, or yeah, and every now and then female pressure does something specific. Like, for example, many female pressure members are based in main Europe. We try to change that, and we want to have more members from all over the world. So, for example, when I travel as an artist, I always try to tell other women especially to join us, because you can send your stuff there and you get response or not, but we can connect and can help each other. So sometimes, of course, it's too much for people, to get so many things, and it's sometimes hard. But I think we have also had really important discussions. So, for example, I personally have initiated some discussions around the trans issues and gender issues, or race issues on the email list, and we had quite horrible fights there, honest, brutal fights, but good, you know. So to figure out stuff, and I think it's a really beautiful thing. So it was founded by Electric Indigo. Does it say here? It's an Austrian DJ and some other people, and she's now the founder. And I joined 2004, and the first years I was just lurking in the email list, just looking what's been happening. It was a little bit boring, nothing was going on. But then around 2010 we started to do stuff, and I think everything we've touched now when we do projects there, it's really powerful. So I know lots of people also been disappointed with female pressure, and I understand it's not something that, like, it's so huge that it doesn't work in a way, for example, how a small collective would work. For example, if you make a woman's or a queer collective in Nairobi, and you have 10 people there, it's a different way how you can take care of each other than with female pressure. So female pressure is more kind of like anonymous, like it's a body in the internet or in the world, in the real world. But also many women I'm working with in female pressure, I've never seen them, I only know their emails or their avatars, and it's okay. We are collaborating on really big projects, for example the counting or Rojava project or others. I actually have a full female pressure presentation somewhere, but I don't think I have it on this computer. But I recommend actually every woman producer. We mostly produce music producers and DJs and also VJs and electronic arts largely. Yeah. So do you have more questions about female pressure? Yeah. So also the thing with female pressure is that we cannot be responsible for example, it's also different than a small, support group. We are not responsible for everything all our members do. So sometimes we're doing things we are not all agreeing on. For example, in the Israel-Palestine issue, there has been horrendous fights between us, and very sad in a way. People have left us, but I still think it's positive, because at least we talking about it and we're doing something about it. And even if, I mean, sometimes people are getting so hurt and that's horrible, and we cannot hug them or we cannot go there and, you know, fix it. But I still think for certain things female pressure is really useful, and especially uh, into promotion, pushing stuff. You know, for example, I do almost every day, I spend time volunteeringly to promote other women's work. And I have embedded this in my life so thoroughly because if I want to do it, it's one small activism, and it's not just gender, you know, focus, but has a big gender focus. So, yeah, this is what it is. And I've now, for example, have moved on a little bit from female pressure to making this Recon platform. Um, but I still do female pressure Twitter together with 3 other people, and we are pushing, you know, women's work and the attention to amazing productions other women do and so on. So, or films or anything. Yeah. Have you heard of Las Theses before? Yeah, so it's really interesting. So it's this collective of these 4 women here in these red overalls. They are artists, musicians, you know, illustrators, thinkers, academics, and they are formed this group called Colectivo Las Tesis. They are based in Valparaiso in Chile. It's not the main capital, but it's a city there, a techno city actually, kind of. There's the techno festivals going on. Anyway, they have made this chant against sexual harassment and police and government state violence. And it's this poem, and they made a techno beat, and they are playing this techno beat, and then the groups of women or people who are collecting, they're chanting this poem on top of it. So it's like, I don't speak Spanish. So it's now translated in many, many languages, and it has been performed all over the world in so many cities. For example, the left picture you see up there is Mexico City. And I have to say, in South America, the femicide rates, like killing of women, is huge. It's brutal and crazy. In northern Mexico, it's brutal. Nobody really knows what's going on there. It's very, very bad. So the way how feminists have organized in South America is very interesting. There's also this book by Veronica Gago called How to Change Everything, and it's about the feminist strike. And so largely influenced by lots of Silvia Federici, oh, I don't remember her name now, Rigato, I think. Anyway, so lots of really impressive feminist writing about the body and the woman in the society and the oppressions, how they represent the state of the society is super interesting. And so these women made this chant, and it became kind of global. And there has been in Berlin and Turkey. I don't know if there has been any in Nairobi. I would like to check, but I just made an episode with them. I interviewed them specifically about the sound question. So I asked them questions about how they came up with the music, why did they use techno, do they know that techno is black music, because they are South Americans, yes. And we talked about, you know, the depth of the sound aspect of this chant, and using the voice with all these women, and what the effect on the body, and so on and so on. So it has been, yeah, one of the main brutal lines in the poem is, the rapist is you, the state, the police. So because there have been so many incidents of police and government not, you know, going for accountability for rapists or harassment or murder, femicide, and so on. So it's a really strong movement. And I think in combination, building this practice of making it happen, that people go out like this around an issue and fight. I mean, this has been, in my opinion, also been leading in Chile to the change of the constitutions. There's a huge feminist, and I would almost say Marxist feminist movement going on. For example, the current mayor of Santiago, as far as I understand, is a Marxist feminist, and they have managed to make a referendum to change their constitution of the country, which demands inclusivity, also women, indigenous people, and they made a council now where they voted an indigenous Chilean woman to be the head. So it's incredible, interesting, one of the most inspiring projects of our time politically, in terms of also how sound has been used. And yeah, I find it really beautiful to learn from it and find out about it. And because many people have not known about it, and it's kind of shocking to me because it has been impressively large crowds, you know. And actually, femicide, I have walked around femicide a lot lately. So this is this specific killing of women, and I have a little bit concentrated on political femicide, so women who do political work being killed. And I have collected even lots of their names in a database, and I made several pieces around it. And you know, the act of silencing these women by taking their lives and stuff, it's just really common practice. It happens literally every week. I don't know if every day, but every week I hear about a woman being murdered somewhere in defense of either her land or the land of indigenous people, or obviously femicide in the private household is large. Even in Europe, you wouldn't believe that every second day in Germany a woman gets killed by her husband or something like this. It's crazy. And that's Germany, you know, or even in Finland, it's quite high, and we are like the world ranking. We have top marks on the world, you know, feminist agendas or something. So there's something maybe I haven't mentioned I was lately really inspired by. It's called Dalit feminist theory. And Dalit are the lowest, I don't know if the lowest, but a low caste in India, where there's this caste system. And this woman, oh damn, I don't remember her name right now. But if you check Dalit feminist theory, you find her. She's right. She wrote a book about it, and she is lecturing it. I think she's doing a PhD right now. Very young Indian Dalit woman, and she basically what also black feminists have done already since the 70s and so on, arguing again that she's going further in terms of saying the weakest position in a group, wherever we are right now on Currents FM, but you know, wherever you are in a group, the weakest person has to be given the strongest position, or has to give a strong position to organize the space. So that's her theory, and I think it's really inspiring because so often, you know, in society nowadays we we reward the successful, the strong, the able, the most, you know, whatever, you know what I mean. So it's a really valid argument, and I really like it. I should put it in the presentation. So yeah, I've been influenced by a lot of obviously also thinkers and writers. Sylvia Wynter. This is a book I'm working with right now and have been for the last year. It's called Unlearning Imperialism by Ariella Aisha Asuli. And it's very interesting because, you know, I was raised communist or Marxist, and, you know, I was thrown out into this capitalist world, kind of my family, everybody defeated, that our system was shit and useless and weak and not worth it. And for many years I was trying to live under capitalism the best way I could with my values and ethics I hold very dear. And for a while I was not having any thoughts about anything because I was so confused. I didn't even know what to eat or what to buy because the world was so different. I don't know if this is familiar to any of you, but I think there's many places which have been confronted with quite sudden westernization. And of course, in the last 20 years, so much through technology has changed. And like that kind of pull into the neoliberal, like the individual success story, has also, affected me. And I have been trying to be good at it. I have been trying to make my shit happen, and for a while by myself. And I have just after a while, when I looked up, I realized I was in a space that was very lonely in a way. So, for example, that's how I became into feminist organizing, because I was raised feminist. For me, feminism is the most normal situation. Under communism, it was maybe the best thing about communism. That was at least the goal from the start. So it didn't happen, and it wasn't realized, and it was still a patriarchy. But I grew up like that, and realizing suddenly that I was most often the only woman on the music festivals. This is around 2000, yeah, in the beginning of the 2000s. I was often the only woman, and I started to think, wait a minute, there's so many other women. I know hundreds of women producers and performers, and they do much cooler work than these dudes who are playing. So what's happening here, So this is how I got to realize, oh, I'm in that trap. I'm being in this isolated trap, and I'm not thinking of, others or the world or how that looks. So this has been really, I don't know if this is useful for you, but this has been my story. So I want to warn everybody to really consider, and I think in the last year it has been great. Lots of things have been, be at least come to our awareness about neoliberalism, and also how it invades our personal life and our own corruption, to our own, we all have to live under capitalism. We have to make the money to pay our stuff, to get our gear, to get our, pay our positions, to be able to do this and that. And it's totally fair enough to everyone. I want the best to do, and everybody should do for themselves. But this is one graph I made. So, because people have asked me this before. So, how I go about it now, I would say the most important position is still you. There's this MIA song where she's singing, "There's only one you." Um, it's true, it's only one you, and there's only one life. So you have to be okay. You have to be okay, and you have to take care of yourself. But next is your immediate family, your immediate, maybe queer family, your kin, your pets, whatever is in your immediate family, kin. And then it's your community, something you chosen, something you work in, something maybe is virtual, something maybe is local, but your community is important. And when these things are okay, and this is also female pressure again, I've been thinking, how can this world be okay if already we women don't fix our shit with each other? How can we, fight for anything if our very local thing is not okay, and or our very intrinsic community is not okay? For example, it's racist, it's absolutely unacceptable, or we are tolerating some, alt-right positions, or we are tolerating fascist, pre-fascist, whatever positions, because we don't want to have a fight, or we don't want to bother, or we want to do our own shit. And of course, sometimes it is important to do your own shit, 100%. But so this is where I was how I'm thinking to act. So, and I'm older, so there is a lot of time. It's not about everything. You have to do everything right now. It's about you have a life. Your life is maybe 80 years long. Luckily, hopefully, maybe 100, maybe 60. But this is where you can act. That's the timeline, and that's the sound you can make this long. Oh, this is actually cool. I've never thought of it like this. So if sound is a time-based medium, that's the time you have to make a sound and to leave a sound. And if you understand sound as a physical thing, you also understand that it never goes away, really. anticipates and gets quieter and quieter, but it exists. It's waving. See? Okay, maybe I talked enough. Anybody? Oh, somebody came in an hour late. Hi. We're just finishing here. But maybe to, yeah. So to finish this up, let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to still hang out a bit. But so with the presentation, I'm basically kind of through. And also, you can follow me. I'm mostly on Twitter active. I also have an Instagram account, but I don't use it so much. But I post some work there. And my music I release under AGF. So it's everywhere, wherever you listen music, it should be there. And yeah. And you can obviously leave me message in Discord as well. You're welcome to. And send me your socials so I can follow you. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think there was a time mess up with the time. I think the announcement was wrong yesterday. And I'm sorry for this. I didn't. I tried to correct it, but it was maybe too late. So maybe I stop the recording now.